Speaking with Lincoln McIlravy, who's being inducted as a distinguished member here at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Lincoln, has been an interesting and fun experience so far down here at the Hall of Fame ceremonies?
Yeah, it really has. I remember coming here when I was in 8th grade, so it was 1988, going through the Hall of Fame, seeing some of the great ones at that time, and seeing some of those same people here live. Coach Gable's here, and John Smith is here, and some of the all-time greats in our sport are in the building, and you can see their plaque, and you can also shake their hand. It's a very unique event and really an honor.
Now, your family's down here. How did you get involved in wrestling? Was your dad or your parents involved at all in encouraging you to try this sport?
Yeah, my mom and dad and my wife and kids are all here. But I started out when I was 5 years old. Both of my older brothers competed in wrestling, and it was just kind of the thing to do when wrestling practice was going to start. Hey, Lincoln, you're old enough, and you just jump in the car with the older brothers. So, I would say they gave me the first impetus to be involved in the sport came through my older brothers. And then once I started, it was just something I loved to do. It was something I couldn't get enough of.
And part of not getting enough of it, even when you were in high school, and that was competing on a national level. You won 5 titles, is that correct, in high school in South Dakota? But you also didn't stay. I mean, you went out and competed against the best in the country. And what was that experience like for you, and how did that help you later on in your career?
Yeah, those are great experiences. I remember going to the Cadet Nationals in Battle Creek, Michigan, won the championship there. And I remember thinking, now this is the cream of the crop. This is the best our country has to offer for 15, 16-year-olds. And if I can just continue to beat these kind of guys, I mean, this is a premier event. And then I remember going to the Junior Nationals and won the Junior National Championships in high school as well. And just the confidence that gave me that, I can beat anybody in our country, that these premier events in the summer, because you win a state championship, well, there's 50 states, there's multiple classes in most states. But when you come together at a USA Wrestling national event, I mean, that really is the pinnacle of national wrestling in our sport.
Now, you chose the University of Iowa, coached at the time by Dan Gable, and a great traditional program. What was the decision for you to go there? And, I'm not sure that you would have fit the mold of the typical University of Iowa wrestler. A lot of the recruits have a certain style, and you obviously did very well in that program.
Yeah, there were a few things that were very attractive to me. There, obviously, the track record of success, Coach Gable, his style, the training partners that I would have was probably one of the biggest factors. The Brands, the Steiners, Zaleski to work out with. There were world-class guys around my weight class that I could wrestle with every single day. And Coach Gable would say things, and I remember even on a recruiting trip, he said, Lincoln, we never want to change your style, we only want to add to your style. And he said that numerous times throughout my career, not just to me, but the other athletes as well. And I think he really held to that belief. We don't want to change anybody, but only add to their own style. So, it was a great fit for me.
Now, your freshman year, they pulled you out of redshirt, and you ended up winning the NCAAs in a wild match against Jerry Abbas. I mean, must have been kind of a whirlwind for you, since you were supposedly going to redshirt. How did that end up? And tell us a little bit about that finals match where you had to come from behind.
Sure, that was a very exciting season. I competed in the open events, had really good success, wrestling unattached, I was redshirting as a freshman. And then it got to be late January, and I was very well prepared. I'd been training with our team as if I was going to compete, and our team was struggling a little bit. And I remember talking with Coach Zaleski, and he says, "Hey, if you want to compete, I think you're ready." And I said, "Well, what weight?" And he said, 142. And I said, "Hey, I'm in." So lost my first match, and then lost in the Big Ten finals. So it was kind of an up and down season with a lot of momentum. I mean, I felt I was getting better every day, leading all the way up to the nationals. And the training regimen at Iowa was so difficult. I loved it, but it was so difficult that I looked at the tournaments as like 2 to 3 days off.
Right.
Just wrestle a match in the morning and a match at night. That's much easier than the training that I go through. And I think only at Iowa would I have felt that way going into big tournaments. But as a freshman, made the finals, was competing against Jerry Abbas from Fresno State. Probably the fastest wrestler I'd ever competed against. Deceptively fast, a lot of reach, and could just score a lot of points. And you know, the match was, I wish I could say it was back and forth, but it was really, he was ahead the whole match from the first takedown until 5 seconds left in the match. He was ahead by as many as 5 points in that match. But there were a lot of great positions in the match. He seemed to come out on top in most of those earlier in the match. And then as he got a little more tired, I was able to capitalize on some positions and just continued to press forward and try to score points, and was able to score the last takedown with about 5 seconds left. But it was a very exciting match. People come up now and they still say, you know, I remember the match with Abbas. That's probably the most famous match that people remember, because I was a freshman, and just the excitement in the match was outstanding.
Now, looking back, you had one of the greatest college careers in history, but your junior year, you didn't win in the finals. It was at your home arena against Steve Marinetti, and you know, I'm sure that disappointment was the word that was in your mind then, but could you talk a little bit about you know, what it was like to go through that experience and then come back and finish off strong?
Yeah, you know, a couple things. People always say to me, you must have loved wrestling at Carver. And I said, well, no, actually, I lost 2 out of the 3 college matches that I lost in Carver. So
Yeah.
I had 2 bad experiences in Carver. But, you know, I'd put a lot of pressure on myself, and I had sort of tried to accomplish something that was not accomplishable at the time. I was trying to win 4 national titles. And as a junior in college, you certainly can't do that. The best I could do would have been to win 3 if I'd have won that year.
Right.
But better than that, you know, I needed to bring it down to a level, score the next point, stay in good position. I was just trying to accomplish something that was too big to accomplish. Put a lot of pressure on myself. You know, lost the match, I think it was 13-10 or 13-9 to Steve Marinetti from Illinois. I don't even remember the match. It's one of the few matches I just don't remember the positions or the score at different times in the match. But I remember the disappointment, obviously, and it was devastating. It was devastating. But the way that, you know, the way that Coach Gable said, you know, take a week off, come back, and let's talk about the things you think went wrong and the things you think you need to do to get back on track. And I'd written down a couple pages of notes, and he'd done the same. We had a lot of the same type of things, so that was a great first step in just getting back on a positive track. You know, if the best coach in the world says these things, and I've got some of those same things in my mind that went wrong and things I need to do to move forward, you know, that made me feel better about it. At least I, you know, have a good understanding of the sport. And he said, you know, you've got to get competing again. And so I think it was about 4 weeks later, I went and competed, and it felt great to get out and wrestle and win again. And I think had I waited till the next college season, it would have been a long time to let the pain of that loss kind of sink in, and you know, it might have been real difficult on my confidence. So.
No, even in college, you had high Olympic aspirations. Took a redshirt year, and you know, 2nd in nationals, 3rd in trials. But I remember, I mean, we spoke to you at the time. Your goal was to be the Olympic champ that time. What was that redshirt year like for you, and what did you learn that helped you out in the rest of your not only college career but going into the international freestyle for the next quadrennium?
Yeah, I did. I redshirted in 1996, and I also took a semester off from school so I could really focus on freestyle wrestling. I'd wrestled a lot of freestyle through USA Wrestling in the summers, but to really become an expert in freestyle, I felt I needed a complete commitment to it. Went overseas, had some great experiences there. I lost to the eventual Olympic champion that year, and it was a great experience, but I learned that I've got to get a lot better. It's not just that I need to peak from where I'm at, but I needed to get a lot better. And so it was an eye-opener in some ways. Beat some really good guys that year, beat some world team members that year, but couldn't beat Townsend Saunders in the finals of the Nationals. It was close. It was a 1-point match. And then at the World Team Trials, I lost, or the Olympic Team Trials, I lost to Pat Santoro, who I'd beaten at the Open. I think when you move to a new level, it's hard to attain the level and then to be consistent enough to dominate that level. And I felt I could have won some of those matches, but I wasn't consistent enough, and I wasn't good enough to beat those guys every single time. And so that was really a lesson for me, is like, you've got to become so good that you can beat the best guys every single time, not just occasionally. And so that was really the difference between 99 or 96 and then the year 2000, was I felt that I was consistently better than the competition.
Now, you kind of were the dominant wrestler in your weight class in the quadrennium, made your first world team the next year after your college finished up, and basically ran the table on that weight class up through 2000 and won a few medals at the World Championships. Your goal was to win the gold medal both at the Worlds and Olympics, and fell a little short on that one. And was just curious, looking back at what your thoughts were about trying to be the best in the world and showing that you were consistently among the best, but did not get the gold medal that you sought.
Sure. Well, there's a proverb it's Proverbs 16:16. It says, "How much better to get wisdom than gold, to choose understanding rather than silver." But in light of that, what I would say is, if you like where you're at in life, you have to embrace your past. Doesn't mean you have to enjoy every single aspect of your past, and it's not always the high points that shape our lives. Sometimes it's the low points, it's the disappointments. They can be shaping parts of our lives as well. I really like where I'm at. I love my wife, my 4 kids, like the business we're in. All these things have been partially shaped by our experiences, including failures. And to win the bronze at the Olympics was really disappointing. Obviously, I'd trained for 21 years to become an Olympic champion. I started on that quest when I was 5 years old, as much as a 5-year-old can. But it was very disappointing. I'd always seen myself as becoming an Olympic champion, becoming one like the Dave Schultzes, the John Smiths, the Kenny Mondays, the Bruce Baumgartners, the icons in our sport. I'd always seen myself as being one of those kind of guys. And Olympic gold certainly is a big part of that. But I really had a great career. I loved wrestling. I mean, the act of wrestling, to train for wrestling, to compete in wrestling, I just couldn't get enough of that.
You also spent a few years in the coaching ranks, both in the college and at USA Wrestling, teaching freestyle to the residents. Was coaching fun for you? Well, obviously, it's a totally different challenge.
It is a different challenge, and just because you can wrestle well doesn't mean you can coach well. I did like coaching. I really enjoyed, especially coaching at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. I loved to coach the elite level. Just the mindset of that athlete was something I really, really enjoyed. And it wasn't that I didn't like the job, but in 2003 I decided I would compete again, so I gave up my job, which I loved, as a national freestyle resident coach, to come back and compete in 2003. Was hoping to make the world team in 2003 and the Olympic team in 2004.
Now, you're not actively professionally involved in coaching as a wrestling, but you're around wrestling quite a bit where you live, obviously being in Iowa City and everything. Do you still enjoy going out, seeing the matches, working with kids once in a while, making sure that you keep your hands on the sport of wrestling?
Yeah, I do. Nothing's more exciting to me than to watch a high-level match when it's a national championship match or an Olympic championship match, or to make the world team. Just to watch that kind of competition brings back a lot of memories, a lot of emotion. It's really exciting for me to watch that type of stuff. And even more than that, I almost enjoy watching a good practice as well.
Yeah.
When you see 2 guys who are maybe at a different weight class, but they're both ranked number 1 in the country, there's a lot of pride, and you just see it, and you see the tenacity, and that just brings back a lot of great memories for me. And being at the University of Iowa, in Iowa City, where we're at, we get the opportunity to see that anytime we want to, and it's really a privilege.
Well, congratulations on your induction to the Hall of Fame, and certainly tonight's the banquet. You'll have a chance to actually go up and formally become a member, and want to wish you great luck in the future.
Thanks.